and then hit the button. And everything should be good to go. Welcome everyone to the Shin-Arken podcast, episode 17. Got myself, Shin, and Arken here. What's up, Arken?
What's going on, Shin? How you doing, man?
Not bad. I am very drained, but from what I've heard, you're in the same boat.
Oh, dude, I'm out of it, man. This is gonna be a fun one.
Yeah. We're gonna try and make this a short episode because it's weekday and we're both kind of not at peak performance and all of that. But we've got a pretty
Peak
interesting
performance.
peak performance. See what I
Peak
did there?
performance.
See what I did there? That warrior trait. I'm making puns. And I'm not even trying. Sleep deprivation can be all sorts of fun.
Oh, it's terrible, dude.
Yeah,
Oh.
not fun actually, but whatever. But since this is going to be a shorter episode, we're probably going to only go around an hour, if that. We've got a topic that probably won't take us as long either, which will be nice. We're going to be talking about just how crazy the PvP scene is right now after the specialization change yesterday.
It's gotten out of control, and I'm not so sure in a good way because everyone's gotten squishier because of the normalization of stats. You can't just get like 300 armor from this line or vitality from this line. So things have gotten a lot squishier, and there's just a lot more damage being thrown around.
Oh yeah.
So I like it that way because in a sense it requires faster reaction timing. So you need to be fast and you're on your feet with proccing either your invulns, your stun breaks and whatnot, your protection, or else you're gonna be in some serious pain.
Oh yeah, like I'm really enjoying the fact that everyone's time to kill has gone down by a lot because it makes fights more interesting. Like you were saying, it requires you to be more active, it requires more skillful play. You can't just kind of sit there and bunker attacks until your friends show up or until you can run away and whatnot. Like it almost feels more like a fighting game. Like I've been.
It is.
Yeah,
in that regard, yes.
Yeah, like one of the games I've been playing a lot more kind of on the side recently has been a fighting game, and I've actually been trying to get decent at it. And yeah, the patch has made the game PvP wise feel a lot more like a fighting game in that regard. Like you have to know what you're doing, you have to react properly, look for tells, or you're gonna get punished way harder than we were pre-patch.
Right. I would say that is the case mostly, but I have to say that there have also been a lot of instances of, uncounterable, either passives or skills, whatever the case is, and so there is still that there. There definitely still is the case of that being there, which is unfortunate, but it's hopefully they'll look into it.
I didn't tell you this before the podcast when we were having our little pre-discussion, but so on the stage server or whatever, I found this build. It uses settler amulet. You can probably see where I'm going with this already.
Yay, settlers.
This is good. This is also going to really trigger you. Ellie, Condi Ellie.
Okay.
I could not die, and I burned everyone.
Yeah, that might have been what I was actually facing earlier. It was the staff Ellie build. And I was running my Condi guard, and I could not drop it below 90%, and they were just immune to Condis. There was nothing I could do. It was actually very, very frustrating.
They were probably running Diamond Skin, to be honest, but...
No, they were, yes. I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say, yes. Diamond Skin is definitely the case.
This build did not use Diamond Skin, and this was Dagger.
Right.
It was like, I was sitting there testing it. I think I was streaming at the time, and I'm sitting like, I can't die. This is ridiculous. I mean, the person I was fighting was using a block warrior build, so they weren't dying as quickly as other people would have because they were blocking and dodging everything. But when I was landing burns, I got up to like 8 sacks of burn on them once, and they lost a good third of their health, no problem. It was I think builds that have a lot more blocks and a lot more clears can probably shut this build down that I was testing, but it was still hilarious to see because no matter what they did, they could not get me anywhere near critical health.
Right, yes. Yeah, and I've been seeing a lot of that too. It's been kind of really ridiculous in that sense.
Yeah, but I mean, I haven't had a chance to really play as much as I'd like just cuz work and all that fun stuff, but the matches I've played, yeah, it's been absolute chaos, like both World and PvP. Just like I'll run into midpoint and there's Condis flying everywhere. People's health is going from 100 to like 30 in all of 2 seconds. Oh, it's ridiculous. Like it's
There's a lot of damage being thrown. Like I
there.
said, people are just getting destroyed.
Oh yeah, time to kill for everyone has gone down a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm, I'm definitely going to enjoy it for what it is right now. I'm enjoying the high damage, everyone exploding right now.
Not so much enjoying that in a sense because some of it is instant and you can't avoid that.
Thieves.
I don't like that at all.
Thieves?
Well, not so much thieves, but I've been fighting a lot of the mesmers, the interrupt mesmers.
Oh yeah, interrupt mesmers. Oh, this is gonna be fun. I don't think I've really run into many of those in my matches, but I know you were saying before you have. Whole lot of them. I've been running into mainly Kandi mesmers.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Not so much, honestly, for me.
Yeah, that's like I don't. Maybe I can't tell they're Kandi because there's just so much stuff flying around, and I'm seeing Kandis pop up, but they're not doing a lot of Kandi damage. It might just be because they're maybe interrupt mesmer and they have some of those, Kandi on interrupt builds or traits or whatever. But like,
Right.
I haven't really noticed much of the interrupt. It could just be because I have stability running all over the place and I'm running like resistance and stuff. So maybe that could be it. Maybe I'm just
That
not.
could definitely be it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure though.
Maybe just because I'm a warrior, I don't notice it. Which is surprising to me considering I use hammer, which you would think is one of the most vulnerable things to an interrupt mesmer.
You would think it actually feels that way because of how vulnerable you really are as a player. You know what I mean? You really are.
Yeah. Like, I'm running around with Marauder Amulet, which, for those who don't know yet, is the old Zerker. It's the, Power, Precision, Vitality, Ferocity, 4-split.
Right.
But
Of course.
I've been running around with a pretty glassy build. Like, it does not have defense or tactics. It's full on DPS.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Full on DPS?
It's full on DPS. Strength, arms, discipline.
Well, it's the animations are what really makes it nice. You know what I mean? Is that you're very susceptible to being bursted down, and especially so against those interrupt mesmers, because I got to tell you, they are incredibly powerful.
Oh yeah.
That is the damage output they have is just unbelievable for the amount of sustain they have. They don't have a ridiculous. They can be bursted down. I'm not saying they cannot. That is not the case. But just the amount of damage they have is unbelievable. Like it is.
Oh yeah.
It's death. No, it's that bad. It's way too good. At least in my opinion, I think it's way too good.
Well, like I've run into that. I actually stage server. I actually played one for a little bit just to see how ridiculous it was. It was disgusting. Like I barely had to do anything, and the people like I was playing. This was Kandi actually, and I think it had some interrupt stuff in there. But I was playing. Yeah, I was playing a Kandi Mesmer on stage server, and I know they've been nerfed a little bit since the patch came out on live, but I was playing Kandi Mesmer versus someone who's playing Kandi Ranger, who are just as ridiculous this patch. And it was disgusting. Like, my cancer was more cancerous than their cancer, and that's
so ridiculous how you say that. It's just funny because it makes sense.
Yeah, this was like. And I'm kind of using cancer in the term of like something is stupidly broken, but I'm also using it in the sense of like Kandi's like disease, and it was just I barely had to do anything. Like as long as I played decently, like I didn't I dodged things, I could just run them over with how many conditions the mesmer had. It was stupid. It's just I was sitting there like this is disgusting. Like this is not. Oh, I don't even know what to say at this.
Right. Well, it's even more prevalent when you're playing on as a burn guardian. Like I said earlier, it's really ridiculous. The damage is just way out of this world. But
Yeah,
and a lot of that damage is actually passively applied. What I mean by that.
yeah, like I know Guardian did get a lot of stuff that kind of just passively throws burning on them, just as you're doing things. I think. Oh, I'm blanking on the traits, but isn't there one that applies burning when you have Aegis and you passive apply it, or like when Aegis shatters?
Well, that's when that's damage. That's damage.
Yeah,
that's what you're saying.
Yeah, shattered Aegis, but I thought there was another one that like procced burning when something happened with Aegis. I don't remember.
Oh, it is. It's actually not. I'm trying to think about what the trait it was called.
Oh, was it burning on block? Was that it?
Yes, that was Amplified Wrath, the one they changed.
Okay.
But that's actually got nerfed too. That, believe it or not, we actually got some pretty decent nerfs into that. You would be very surprised. Because
Yeah.
that got an internal cooldown, which I thought was a little interesting. But on the same token, I mean, it kind of needed.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you
There's too much burning as it is. You know what I mean?
when you're saying that you're running around, high top tier with burn guard and destroying people,
Oh, it is disgusting.
Yeah.
It's too easy to pull off. It's not fair.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be able to burst down. I should not be able to burst down someone faster than a berserker build.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Connie Burst has gone through the roof. Like, with, like, the burn you've been talking about, but also, like, Ranger Bleeds. Have you seen what a Ranger can do to someone?
Oh, dude, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
They can put out probably even more pressure than I can do, but mine is a lot easier to pull off.
Okay.
It really is that much easier to pull off than a Ranger. So it's the damage is just being thrown around so much. I like it, but the instant skills that apply that damage, I'm not a fan. I don't like it. I don't think that's very good at all.
There's no... Well, I mean, there's there's no counterplay to, like, prevent it, but there's always the counterplay of Connie clear, but at the same time, with the amount of Connie spam flying around, it's... Yeah. Like, I don't know how to feel about any of it yet, because I haven't played the patch enough to really get a feel for it. I've mainly been focused on testing my build and getting my build to where I want it. But I have seen some ridiculous stuff. Like, you're not wrong to say stuff's ridiculous for sure.
Well, I just think there's too much damage being thrown around across all professions.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? There's too much.
I could see that. I can understand. I'm sitting here feeling guilty about how much damage I'm putting out on my warrior, but then when like you had mentioned before the podcast popped up, you were saying how warriors are like the least of your concerns. I'm sitting.
They
here,
are because they're very easy to avoid. Their animations are almost as bad as a guardian's hammer. You know what I mean? It's not nearly as ridiculous.
Well, like,
I mean, it is ridiculous. It's a lot easier to avoid, is what I'm trying to get across. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to avoid. I can't avoid, say, the new interrupt mesmers burst. It's not possible. I can't do it.
Yeah.
It is quite literally just. It's one of those things that you look at and you go, well, this is gonna hurt, and you can't avoid it. It's just a simple matter of hopefully you have a block up or something that helps you, absorb that instant CC. Does that,
Yeah. Well, like, on the warrior thing, I'm curious. What builds have you fought so far?
Everyone's running strength something, and then Rampage is carrying. Honestly, that's pretty much what it is. Rampage is carrying.
I agree with you. I was saying this when I was messing around with Rampage. Rampage carries. Like, before the patch, everyone would be like, "Oh, Rampage so OP," blah blah. I was sitting there like, it's strong, but it's an elite. I can understand why it's as strong as it is. Right now, after the patch, yeah, it's carrying. It's shirking, if not slightly touching into the OP territory. I've hit people for 7K. I think maybe sometimes.
Dude, I got hit for 9K. Once
yeah, I was about to say
auto. I'm like, no.
I don't know about an auto, but there was a shoulder charge I did once that I think that also hit for 9K on someone.
Right.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I will openly admit that Rampage is probably skirting the edge, if not dipping into the OP territory now.
Right. You don't think that it wasn't OP before? I mean, it did some significant damage before, and you were pretty much unkillable.
Yeah, but you could block it, you could immobilize it, you could blind it, you could.
No, that's true. You're right. That option was definitely there. It's just, again, it sort of reminded me of the old school. You remember how turrets they weren't susceptible to conditions and crits.
Yep.
Of the I win button of putting down a crate and you're dead.
Yeah.
That sort of reminded me of that in a sense. Same with like Lich. Like if you don't have LOS, available to you, or and some of your cooldowns are not there, you're gonna die to someone in Lich form. They're gonna destroy you. So that I don't like these sort of I win buttons. You know what I mean? That they're not conducive to good gameplay, at least for me. But I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't really see them as I win buttons necessarily. I see them as very, very strong cooldowns, and in Rampage's case, probably slightly on the OP edge after this patch. But I see some kind of like Lich form. Lich form is harder to really. I can't give Lich form as much slack because its range with 5k plus auto attacks, but
They're also squishy as hell.
yeah,
Dude.
that's the thing though. They are squishy. They only get one stack of refreshing stability. Like you can
Right.
shut them down if you have something to get in there. I
Right.
don't even see Lich as an I win button necessarily. Like it has some counterplay if you have reflex, if you have blocks, if you can get in and kill them or CC them quickly, you're usually good against a Lich.
Oh, absolutely, without a
Um,
doubt. Yeah, if you can see someone popping it instantly, you'll be able to knock them down relatively quickly,
yeah,
and
like
it'll actually go in your favor pretty nicely. And I've actually seen that, and it's actually really nice because anyone popping Lich, burst them down really quickly. Yes, they do significant damage, but they're also very susceptible to burst.
well, yeah, like what I would do before the patch, and you could very easily do this now, but before the patch, my typical response to someone popping Lich is I would pop Rampage, and then I would usually win because Lich form can't really deal with Rampage in melee, just
No, it
because Rampage is tanky enough to deal with Lich form's attacks. Plus, you've got usually if you're running Rampage, you've got something in strength, so you got Reckless Dodge, and it's got a lot of CC on it, so you can usually handle it no problem, at least before the patch. After the patch, you could probably run over Lich Form
Easily,
with
without a doubt.
Rampage.
Lich form doesn't even seem like it's much of an. I don't even see Lich form even being run anymore. To be honest with you, it doesn't seem like it's even that strong, especially with all the damage that's being thrown around. Regardless, and as squishy as you are in Lich form, you're probably going to die really quickly.
Yeah, I think it's still strong, but it doesn't have the tankiness that you kind. I think it's since everyone else's damage has gone up that tankiness, that increased health pool that you had before, isn't really a factor as much because people can just
Right.
burst you down so quickly. Rampage still kind of has its weaknesses from before. You can still blind it, you can still CC it, sort of. You can still block
Sort of?
it, sort of.
Sort of.
I say sort. I say sort of because it has a built-in Dark March. It has built-in quarter reduction of snares into it. So I mean, if the Warriors are running Dog March, which they probably are, and they're running Rampage, so we got 2/3 reduced cooldown or reduced duration on snares. So you can kind of immobilize it if you got a lot of condition duration, but that's not really a thing after the patch. I mean, Necros I think still have a boost to it, but a lot of the classes that had those boosts from passive going down lines don't have that duration boost anymore. So yeah, it's that plus the damage being increased. It's Rampage is a lot harder to defend now. I can't really say it's not OP, it's just strong. It's skirting OP after this patch. I will openly admit that. Which is why I mean I'm happy about this regardless because I know people complain about it anyway. But even more so, I'm happy that my new version of my build uses Signet of Rage, so now people can't whine at me for running Rampage.
You know what? It's interesting that you do that because again, I agree with that fact. They can't whine. It seems like, and this actually brought back something I was very surprised about, that they still didn't do much against for Longbow. Because,
Yeah.
with the new Berserker's power trait you got, you're
Yeah.
always going to get that trait now. And yet and again, I kind of bring this up because the Symbolic Avenger that we were supposed to get got nerfed down to 10%.
Yeah.
And I was like, they got 20. What the fuck? So it was salt, dude. I was very salty, and I still am. And actually, the funniest thing about that is ever since they did nerf it down to 10%, I can't justify running into Zeal anymore. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things, man. But yeah, I would definitely say that it's Warriors. If they're not running Rampage, especially if I'm running on my Condi Guard, I feel bad for them. I do. I mean, there's even Shoutbow. They can't cleanse it fast enough.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I was wondering how many Shoutbows you've run into, because I've run into a few, and they just die. Like, I was sitting here like, we get all these nice buffs to Shoutbow, and yeah, we don't really get any, we're not getting any of our heals nerfed, we're not getting anything like that, we're not, like, nothing on Shoutbow was really getting nerfed, in fact, some of it got buffed, but I ran into a few in PvP, and they fall over. Like,
Yes, they do.
No matter what they do, they just die. I mean, I had a decent shot at killing them before the patch with my Hammer Greatsword build because they have no stability. They have
Right.
Shake It Off and sometimes Last Stand, and that's it. But after the patch, they just they just melt. Like their healing doesn't do anything. They just fall over. And while I feel very vindicated at that because I've hated Shout Bow for a long time. I do feel bad for the people who really like Shout Bow because that defense that they've been used to this entire time has just been dropped down the drain. Like they're with all the
You don't
damage
think it was
flying
justified
around.
though? I mean, that was such a crutch, that build though.
Yeah,
I mean, you got carried so hard.
I
if
mean,
you ran
yes,
Shout
yes,
Bow.
it is warranted. I'm not like super sympathetic because it was a very easy to play build that gave a lot like it was very low risk for very high reward, very low input for high reward. So that's why I say I'm very vindicated that they're just falling over. But at the same time, like it's a little ridiculous how quickly they're dying now. Like
Well, it's because of just the amount of damage that's being thrown around. It's increased so much from both sides, Condi and physical, that they can't keep up.
Yeah.
It is literally get your burst off before the other guy gets their burst off, or you lose. That's essentially what it is.
More or less, yeah. I remember. I think I mentioned. I read it somewhere on Reddit. Someone was like, "The opener is so important right now," and I kind of agree with that. Like, your opener in a fight is gonna help a lot more than it did before. It's just ridiculous. Some of the damage that flies around in the burst. Like I've been seeing people complaining about Thieves a lot.
No. Oh god, these are not that strong. I'm sorry. They melt. I'm not no pun intended. Like quite literally. Like Condi guard just. Oh my gosh. I honestly thought they were going to be ridiculous, but they are a joke.
Well, like I haven't fought too many Thieves yet, but the ones I haven't really had much trouble with.
Right.
But because I can I'll use an example. I think I have this in a highlight somewhere or whatever. But I was in World of the World. This applies just as well to PvP. But I was in World of the World and I was running around and I ran into this sword pistol thief. And you know they've got pistol whip, but they do the daze and the evade. He made one mistake. Like he danced around me for a good 30 seconds. I couldn't touch him because he was timing his dodges and his stealth and his evades well and whatnot. And I couldn't touch him. I reckless dodged him once, and that took out about a fifth of his health. Then he got caught by one hammer CC. He got caught by one backbreaker, and he died. Like
just like that.
Like that started the combo, and 2 hits later he was dead. Like he fell over. Like Thieves do a lot of damage because he was doing it. He brought me down real quick as well. When he was dancing around me, but the moment
they get ruined, dude.
Yeah, the moment he made a mistake, he was done. Like, it was ridiculous.
And you know what's interesting about that is that we need more stuff like that because if you're going to be able to put out significant damage while having... Now remember, when I'm talking about sustain, I'm not just talking about
the passive stuff. You're talking about active, like blocks and blinds.
Dodges, blocks, blinds, stealth. When you have a decent access to evades and stealth and whatnot, then... and you make a mistake, you should pay for it, obviously. But that doesn't just apply to Thieves; that should apply to everybody. So yeah, it they fall over very quickly. And I have to say, and they're like the second least of my worries in SPVP too.
Yeah.
As cocky as that is, and again, it's not meant to be that way. It's just from what I've been experiencing as a Condi guard. Heck, I even ran Power Guard once, and my damage shot up pretty significantly too. And I'm just looking at it going, well. What are they going to do? Honestly, and same with engineers, dude. I don't know what spot they're in. They don't seem like much of a threat anymore either. They literally get melted. It's a weird thing, dude.
Well, I mean, against you, they're probably not big of a deal, but Engie's got it real nice this patch.
You think so?
Oh yes, I after fighting
guard.
I mean, maybe 5 gauge isn't the best litmus test of this, but I fought 5 gauge several times on the stage server.
Right.
I mean, yes, he's one of the top Engies in the world, but at the same time, like, I could tell Engie got a lot of really nice stuff, too. Like, HGH is back in, like, full force. Like, he was running around with 22, 25 stacks of might all over the place. The damage was through the roof. His tankiness was pretty damn respectable. Like, it was... And not just 5 gauge, but I've seen other Engies running around, and it's you can tell they got a lot of love this patch. And I mean, it's warranted. They had a lot of broken things before. But even still, like, and these are not, well, I think 5 gauge was using Selly, but I've seen a lot of non-Sellys as well, and they're doing good.
Without a doubt, dude. Without a doubt.
But
Sellys are doing well. Elementalists are an issue, I think, for me. They, especially when running Diamond Skin, and I was never a huge fan of this either, and I'm surprised they actually kept this in the game, is having hard counters. like something like that.
Well, I
Hard counters
mean,
have no place in this game at all.
I
And
mean, Interpain, Zerker Stance.
yeah, but that doesn't last forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
I mean, yes, there
guess.
is a threshold, and I get that, but it's one of those things where I'm looking at it going, well, this is kind of annoying because I was fighting this staff Ellie before, and I could not for the life of me. And I'm running Carrion, but I'm not short on power. Carrion gives me a
Oh
decent amount of power,
yeah.
but I could not drop him below 100% health. I don't know what it was. I didn't know what I was doing, but I couldn't do it, and it was just immune, and I'm like, well, I'm done
Well,
because I can't do anything here. It was
was
literally the biggest hard counter I saw.
was he switching attunements or was he camping Earth?
No, he's diamond skin,
Okay,
pure diamond skin, dude.
I was just curious because there's also the I think it's written in no Stoneheart, that one where you're immune to crits in Earth. But I suppose you would have still seen numbers, but not immune because yeah, that diamond skin. I don't know, like you're well known to the listeners of our podcast as a gigantic Sally Ellie hater. I mean, what's your opinion of that after the patch? Like, where has your opinion changed of them since the balance pass?
Of Celiellis?
Yeah.
No, it's actually gotten worse because of stuff like that. The extra points that they now can put into Earth allow for that hard counter on top of the sustain they already had before. So, I'm not a fan of it personally. Like I said, I have come off across as a Sally Ellie hater, but justifiably so. I mean, you can't just have a ton of sustain, mobility, CC, and still put out decent damage. It doesn't make any sense. There needs to be some give, right? You can't have everything in this game. That's not fun. How is that fun to play against? You know?
Well, to be fair, what I've run up against in PvP and WvW, I have run up against a couple of Ellies. I think they were using Sally. I'm not sure. They were fairly tanky, but I destroyed them. Like, they fell over. They were, like, before the patch, they were hard to deal with. They took me a while to kill if I got a chance to kill them without their allies showing up to the point or whatnot. Now, they die. This could be because I'm running a glass Zerker build, but they just fall over, and I don't have anywhere near the issue I had with them pre-patch. Now, Staff Ellie...
Something different, huh?
I haven't really fought staff Ellies. I did fight before the patch. I fought a really good staff Ellie. I think a couple times solo queuing. Granted, it's high tier, so it's going to be a lot of good players. But yeah, I ran into one. He was all over the place, and I could not get to him, and I could not hurt him. So I don't know. I'm not really in a position to make a lot of judgment calls on what I've been fighting. I can just make observations because I haven't had a chance to really fight as much as I'd like. But the things that have primarily stood out to me in PvP have been Condi everywhere and like I've just been running into Condi all over the place. And
I haven't really. It's really surprising. I really have not.
Yeah, but you're like on that border between mid or high top tier, right?
Well, I don't know. I have no idea. That's a good question. That's really
because I have solo queued into you a few times, so I know I'm at least high tier. I've solo queued into Tarsus. I've solo queued into a lot of people I know are high tier who win tourneys a fair amount, or at least get very far in tourneys a fair amount. So I know I'm up there, but I don't know where I am in the high tier, so it's really hard to gauge. Also, the Condi thing, like, we could have very different experiences because everyone is doing whatever they want right now. There is no meta. Like, no one knows what the meta is. I titled this episode "Meta Flush" for a reason, because there's just nothing. There's no meta.
You think so?
Right now.
I don't know. I think it's pretty easy to figure it out. Honestly, it doesn't take long to figure out what exactly it is. It really doesn't take long to see what is too strong and what's not strong enough. It really doesn't take that long.
Well, yeah, but
I would say that Condi Guard is too strong. It's a joke. The staff Ellies, as they are right now, are too strong. I would definitely say that the new interrupt mesmers are too strong. So yeah, I mean it really, I don't think it takes as long as many people think. I mean, yeah, there are probably some hidden builds out there that we really don't know about, but overall, I mean, it's you look at the traits, right, in your build, and you can almost automatically tell what is strong and what's not. You almost always know. There's a set tree in each tier that you're like, well, that's infinitely stronger than the other two, and you just go with that option. So I mean, I could be wrong, but that's kind of how I've noticed it, especially when I made my Condi guard. I knew right away, okay, I need to take this, this, and this because the other options are just subpar, you know?
Well, like it's interesting you say that because like I have a complete like the stuff that you've said seems really strong and whatnot. From my perspective, they've been no trouble at all. Like Interrupt Mesmer, I haven't even noticed them running around. Stab Valley, granted, I haven't really run into Stab Valley, so I can't. You could be very right on that. Burn Guard, I think I've run into them, but I haven't noticed because I have resist. Like I have a whole bunch of stuff that helps me deal with what a lot of these people are throwing out. So it could just be my build's overpowered. Like I don't even know. It's only been a day since the patch came out. Like it, I'm of the belief that we're still too early to tell what the meta is going to be. I mean, we're still close enough to the patch where ANET could drop some hot fixes and rebalance things like on the fly. I think like they've already done that with Condi Mesmer. I think they're looking at doing it or have already done it with some other Condi builds. But it could be a perspective thing. Like what seems crazy overpowered to you may be based on what build you're running or your class. Because from my perspective, a lot of things you've said are issues, are overpowered.
Right.
I have had no problem with because, like in my case, I get in, I CC them, and they're usually dead within like like 1 or 2 rotations.
Right.
No problem. And then the stuff that I use in my I'm running a glass build, but I have things that protect me well enough to keep me in the fight until I kill them. Like it could be my build's OP, or it could be I'm playing it well enough to where the things are not a problem. It's really hard for me to say this, and this are problems because I haven't really run into things. Like, even the stuff I was worried would be a problem before the patch, like Condi Ranger, Condi Mesmer, like all the Condi flying around, I've actually not really noticed because the way my build has been set up, I have everything to deal with them, and they're just, like, for me, I die when I'm basically caught in too much AoE or I'm focused. That's when I fall over. I don't know. I'm of the opinion that we need to wait a little bit longer to see what's.
No, you might be right on that. Again,
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, it'll be. I don't know. I am with you there that Interrupt Mesmer could be ridiculous because I actually tested Shoutbow, or what I figured might be an ideal shout. I think I actually tested pre-patch Shoutbow on the test server against Jebro, who was running Interrupt Mesmer, and yeah, he destroyed me. Like, Shoutbow of all things, with instant shouts, still got run over. Probably mainly because of Warhorn and Longbow, because those have fairly long casts. Yeah, Warhorn and Longbow have pretty decently long cast times on their skills.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Longbow might not actually be as big of a requirement.
I think it is. Honestly, for landing that burst, or for landing the not the burst, but.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you're running say strength and defense, and you want the Zerker's power and you want the cleansing ire, yeah, Longbow will be mandatory if you're specifically going for that. But the thing is, Zerker's power doesn't really benefit Longbow as much as you might think, because Longbow is a hybrid weapon. It'll affect like the arcing arrow really well. It will affect the fire field really well, but all the other stuff on that weapon set is Condi. Like Pin Down's Condi, Fan of Fire's Condi, Smoldering Arrow is not even really damage, it's just a blind.
Right. It's mostly for the arcing arrow, I've noticed.
Yeah, for the arcing arrow, yeah, that'll definitely help, and you're probably going to be using it after you have that bonus anyway, because, you know, the might stacking. But, it just doesn't... I don't feel like Longbow is going to be as mandatory anymore, simply because... Or it's going to be, if anything, a detriment, because you'll have such long cast times, such slow skills on the Longbow. This is part of why I don't like running it, is because it feels clunky, but you'll leave yourself open to things that prey on interrupting, like Interrupt Mesmer. I don't know. I'm not as worried about Longbow being as ubiquitous as it was, at least in high tier. In mid and low tier, I could still see people running it, because you're probably not going to see as many Interrupt Mesmers down there. You probably won't see as many people running the stuff that preys on Shout. But yeah, again, it's hard to say. We're only a day after the patch, but that's my guess.
Right.
I could be. I don't.
It's a pretty educated guess, honestly, based on your experiences.
Yeah, I don't claim to be any sort of expert on PvP or meta or anything. Like I consider myself like a slightly above average player, but
Right.
I know I'm in high tier because I queue into high tier people that I know are really good. So my MMR has to be at least somewhat respectable. And I know I fight good players too, because the stuff people pull off sometimes against me is ridiculous. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. World of the World is I don't even know what's gonna happen in World of the World. Like my experiences are.
What's that?
My experiences in World of the World are just the same as PvP. It's damage everywhere and Condi everywhere, but I can run people over anyway.
Right. I can't, I can't really run anything roaming in world versus world. I'm a guardian. I don't have any speed. I was very surprised to see that. I'm really slow. That is not. I'm actually slower, believe it or not, because I wasn't able to nitpick what I wanted in certain traits. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Which is actually really, really frustrating because, I used to run staff hammer, take like 2 points into this tree, 4 in this, stuff like that. I used to love doing that because it would help me with my mobility and whatnot. But I can't do that anymore. So,
Yeah, I mean, I understand why Guardian. Like I saw a lot of the changes you guys had when I was messing around with my Guardian, even on the stage server, and I looked at the traits and I'm sitting here like, wow, now I know why Guardians are not happy with this patch.
Well, they're happy with Condi Guard because of how ridiculously strong it is, but Power Guard not so much. I mean, I'm trying to make something use out of it, but it's not as good as I wish. But I would say Condi Guard is ridiculous. Now, the funniest thing about this, and I'm going to come to its defense here, as fucked up as that sounds, and excuse my language, I'm sorry, Shin, but
I don't care.
I'm going to come to its defense here, and then and if I'm completely off base, tell me, but if I'm not, dude, based on what you think, then whatever. All right, so we do a shit ton of burning.
Yeah.
Pretty basic, right? We can't apply any other conditions. Do you think that's fair, though? We have no Condi weapons whatsoever. Do you think...
can apply blind.
That's not. I mean, the damaging condition
damage
is what I mean. We can't do anything else aside from weapon swap. But But don't even put that into the equation because every class can do that. I'm talking about base class.
Yeah.
What can we do aside from burning? I'm just trying to figure this out because if you can only apply burning and that's it.
Yeah.
Don't you think your burning should probably be stronger than other people's burnings? I mean, I'm not trying to defend it completely here because it is ridiculous. But you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, like I've never had a problem with I've never been against Burn Guard being strong or at least viable because you're 100% correct. You only have that one damaging condition, and even in general, you don't have really much for other conditions at all. You have blind, vuln, and I think that's it.
I wish
I mean, Dragon Hunter notwithstanding, but like you've only had really burning to do your damage. So I've always been in favor of Burning Guardian at least, being viable, and up until this point it hasn't really been that way because it just doesn't do enough damage. But like I'm going to openly say I might be and probably am biased because of the fact that I'm a warrior and I just got resistance and I have circumstance and stamp sec yada yada. But I think it's still fine being maybe not as strong as it is, but strong. I would be all for Burn Guard being strong as long as it's not Rampage strong, which is skirting OP after this patch. Probably is more in the OP territory than not right now. But I would be perfectly fine. I'm fine with Condi builds being viable in PvP. I just don't want them being ridiculous.
Right, without a doubt.
Yeah, like Condi Guard currently, or Condi Ranger with bleeds. Like, I'm fine with. I want more builds to be viable. I want more build variety in this game. I don't want to go back to the Sally meta we just had, but I also would prefer, that not go too far with some builds and you have only those builds become meta. I mean, meta by definition is usually you only have a few specific builds, but the more builds that can be considered meta, the happier I am.
Of course, without a doubt. But I mean, we're skirting a fine line here because you're never actually going to have that. In most cases, for each profession, in any game that you play, class, whatever you want to call it, you're only going to really have maybe two specs that are actually viable. So I'm with you. I would love to have more variety. But I think in a real world situation, we're just not going to be able to have that, unfortunately. But it is what it is. But yeah, I see what you mean. And I think from your point of view, as someone who has resistance and berserker stance and cleansing ire, if you land it, it's not nearly as bad. But I think coming from a different class's point of view, thief, lesser extent mesmer, ranger even, because they got hit. They actually got hit. Rangers got hit from their with their Condi cleanse. They can't take two of their strong Condi removals now. They have to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
So, it's maybe coming from those professions, it's ridiculous. So, yeah, I would say that more variety is definitely nice, but what we have now is definitely a little bit over the top.
Yeah, although there is the argument that can be said, when everyone's OP, no one's OP.
Yeah, but there's always someone or some class that's more OP than your OP. See? That's the thing.
Yeah,
there's always someone that's more effective.
I'm not saying that logic is flawless. I'm just
terrible,
throwing
but it's
out
funny.
there. What do you think about Necros?
Oh, dude, I got to tell you, dude, I don't know what it is about Necros. They actually give me some issues. They have, for some reason, I don't know what it is, but the amount of time they can stay of Death Shroud, I don't know what happened. It's jumped significantly. They are
got
just
a
ridiculously tanky now. Like
they got a lot of love on their Soul Reaping line, which helps them stay in Death Shroud and build Life Force. Also, I think they got a big blood magic rework, and that's their like Life Siphon and support trait line, and also Death Magic, which was their their kind of tanky and minion line. They're like, for example, they have this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Death Shroud, but it still kind of applies. They have a trait where they take 10% less damage from poison targets.
Yeah.
And guess what they can
everywhere.
throw around?
That's everywhere.
Yeah. So I mean, I was honestly before I was kind of I didn't know what was going to happen in Necros. I kind of felt like they were still bottom of the barrel compared to everyone else who's getting a lot of love. But after I've been reading some stuff while I was at work, I saw some of the stuff that Noskak was doing on the stage server, and I think they're actually they've got some hidden potential that people are just kind of realizing after this patch. They're like, oh,
Do you think it's too much?
No, because I have not seen, well, okay, I should say no. I should not say no yet, because we don't know how things are going to turn out yet, but considering where they are otherwise, I mean, you gotta throw them a bone. You gotta give them something.
Well, again, this goes back to my original point is, yes, you do need to give them something, but what is it that they need, right? If you're going to give them more sustain, you need to look at their damage, right? Because again, if you're looking at, say, your standard power Necro build, it's literally just one spamming your fucking life force to kill whatever the hell you need. I don't think it's
a power build, though.
No, it's not a power build, but I'm just putting out a point here is that you can't, just because something is nerfed doesn't necessarily mean you have to buff something else, is what I'm trying to get across.
Yeah.
So yeah, they definitely needed help by all means. I'm not saying they didn't, but with the way their power builds play, with literally just spamming one skill, you know what I mean, and just downing your target with like 4K life blasts, I'm like, okay, that's a little much. And then what we have now is a significant amount of Condi transfers, and then of course even more sustain through Death Shroud. And what is the vast majority of what you do in Death Shroud? You spam one. But then again, but the thing is, I'm not saying that as a defense for them. I'm saying that when everyone spams one in their current weapon set, they're spamming one. You know what I mean? So that's not mutually exclusive to Necromancers. But it is definitely a lot of Death Shroud. I don't know how I feel about it just yet. It is very, very strong. I have to feel it out even more. But it definitely has potential for a more bruiser spec.
Yeah, I mean, how much have you fought Necros as a Condi guard versus how much have you fought as a power guard?
I fought them quite a bit as a Condi guard, and it's actually quite annoying because I'm constantly putting on stacks of burning, and I'm like, why the hell is this being cleared? Like, why is this being cleared? You shouldn't be able to clear it this much besides maybe your heal. And that was it. And then I was told, okay, they have a passive. And this goes back to the passive play we were talking about earlier. They have a passive Plague Signet that transfers 3 Condis to you when they have 3 on them. I'm like, okay, that's kind of bullshit, but all right, whatever. And then they run Plague Signet, and then they have that trait that removes 2 Condis every time they pop a Signet. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a lot.
I'm kind of fine with that. Like I like that synergy. I like them having that.
I'm with you on that one too. It's just I wasn't sure where it came from. it wasn't a moment of me being salty. I'm like, what is this? What is happening here? I couldn't figure it out. So it's nice. It is.
I mean, if we're gonna go with the passive stuff, I mean, I'm benefiting from passive stuff. Whenever I hit people when they're under like just under half health, I get unblockable attacks for 6 seconds.
Nice.
And like whenever I pop, well, I mean, this is half and half because I have to use a skill to get this, but it's still a passive buff that happens when I use a skill. When I use a signet, I get 100% or 100 precision as just a bonus when I use a skill. I mean, that like you could say it's either active or passive. You could go either way, but that buff lasts a minute. So I mean, it's there's always going to be this balance between active and passive, and you're going to have this gray area of is this active, is this passive,
Right.
is this,
Of course.
because
Yeah,
I
and I'm with
mean,
you on that.
like with the Necro Plague Signet thing, they have the stipulation of having 3 connies on them, and if they're fighting a power build, unless they've got corruption skills, they're kind of SOL unless that power build happens to be throwing out random conditions here and there. So
Right.
I mean, the Necro thing, I'm with you in the sense that I need to fill it out as well. I need to see
Right.
how it turns out, but I'm not. I guess I'm not sold on it being super crazy or like having a lot of like
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know where I
We got
stand
to
on
feel
it.
it out. We have to see.
Yeah.
And I'm with you on that one. And I'm just trying to figure it out because as a guardian, I don't have much passive stuff. I really don't. Aside from my virtues, I am all active, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is gonna be interesting to see what happens over the next few weeks. I I honestly at at this point in time right now, I just don't want my build to be nerfed because it's so much fun. I mean, it's really high risk, but it's really high reward. Like it's a glass build. Yeah, I have resistance and I have my stances, but like if I have resistance ripped, there goes that. I mean, if I only have really one defense against stuff being corrupted or converted from boons to
Right.
because I'm running a lot of boons, so I'm open to being converted. I'm open to having all those boons being converted real quick and being stolen. So I mean, if I have them corrupted once, I do have a backup, or if I get spited, I have a backup with Signet of Stamina. But I think it's a 36-second cooldown. So I mean, and the build itself can't take punishment. If I get focused, I'm dead.
Oh,
if
of course, yeah. I've
if
noticed that with a lot of warriors. If you get focused, you are done. And
Yeah.
but the thing is, that's kind of how it should be. You shouldn't be able to survive a shit ton of, especially if you're running a more DPS oriented build. So that kind of makes sense, right? It does. If anyone focuses you, you should go down appropriately, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're a god, but they don't exist. But you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
That's what I'm kind of getting across here.
Yeah, right now I'm just kind of focused on. I'm still in like hardcore testing mode with a lot of my builds. Like it's literally only that Hammer Greatsword build that I've kind of locked down for what I want. So I mean, like I'm not even really paying attention to the meta right now. I'm seeing what people are running, and like every game is different, pretty much. Like everything is all over the place, and I don't know what's gonna happen.
I think I have an idea because again, I'm not saying you shouldn't feel things out. You should, but I have an idea of how it's going to play out, and if I'm wrong, honestly, I don't want it to be that way, but I think it will. And I'm hoping we move away from any sort of like Kandi meta. I'm sorry,
You cut out there.
not a huge fan of it, but I don't think we will, honestly.
You're cutting out a couple times.
Oh, am I? I'm sorry. My apologies. Okay. So what I mean to say is that I don't. While I do agree that we have to feel things out, and I completely get that. It's a fact. Maybe I'm overstating things a little too much. Maybe there's this isn't as strong as that, but you can sort of gauge like, wow, this is kind of ridiculous. Even if you have only seen it for the first time, because periodically you'll figure out, okay, this is what I need to do to counter this and that. But even when you figure that out and you're still getting hammered, you're like, well, this is still kind of strong, right? So.
Yeah, it's very hard for me to really to give a definite opinion on this or any sort of conclusion on this. Like, You're playing at a higher level than I am. You can probably figure these things out a bit quicker than I can. But I mean, I just don't feel right giving any absolutes yet.
Oh no, I can't give absolutes, but it's I can definitely give on what I think is going to be the meta just based on what I've seen so far.
Yeah.
And you know what, I'm going to give you just my opinion based on what I've seen and what I think the meta is going to be. Team wise, just based on the comp.
All right, throw it out there.
Condi Guard.
All right.
Interrupt Shatter Mesmer.
Okay.
Staff Ellie.
All right.
Probably Thief because they're really good at backcapping.
Yeah.
And the fifth, I'm thinking Engineer maybe.
I would imagine Engineer with how much stuff they've gotten. Yeah.
That is what it's going to be because it is going to be. It's because the amount of Condi. You don't even need any other Condi class besides your Guardian now. That is your Condi class.
Yeah. I could see that comp being very popular. I mean, honestly, with the changes to the Warriors, like my build is powerful. I have had a lot of really positive feedback on it. A lot of people like playing it, but I don't know how it's going to play at a tournament level. I could potentially see it being, one of your roaming, +1, come and destroy people and move on type things. Because the amount of damage this thing puts out in an instant in CC can turn the tide quickly, but the other team could have counters that, whatever. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Warrior fall lower in the meta or fall out of the meta.
Honestly, I think they will, because their Shout Bow cannot sustain.
Yeah.
They drop quickly. Their Berserkers is actually really strong, but it's still very, very easily noticeable to avoid. So as much as I hate to say it, and I don't like this because I don't like classes to be out of the meta, I think Warriors I think their time has come.
Yeah,
as messed up as that sounds. I don't like it.
Yeah, honestly, I could see that. Like, I can see a situation where, we just don't bring enough to the table. Like, not even Banner is enough to bring a Warrior instead of something else, like an Engie or an Ellie or whatever. Like, I can definitely see that as a possibility. And honestly, I would not be sad necessarily, because I know I can still play the build I want in respectable levels of PvP. And I mean, I don't really do tournaments. I don't have the time to really have a team to practice with. So I mean, the whole top tier tournament scene is kind of off limits to me, sort of.
Right.
So I mean,
work, real life. It's understandable.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do. It makes sense. I get it. Everyone gets it. It's just only so much.
Yeah, exactly. Like so for me, as long as I can play what I want to play in high tier PvP, I'm happy. But like I can see other Warriors, like the tournament Warriors, being sad that they can't play their favorite class or whatever. But I mean, the thing is, a lot of top tier players are multi-classers. They have a bunch of classes that they play. Like if one's not meta, they've got at least two others that are meta. So I mean, I don't think the top tier players are going anywhere, but I could see a situation where Warrior falls out of the meta. What would you say? I almost feel like there would be one more that might fall out.
I don't know, honestly.
I'm trying to think. I want to say Ranger, but at the same time, I mean, I don't know.
I think Rangers will have a chance. I don't know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I think they'll have a chance based on how much bleed they can put out. So yeah, definitely for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. All right, well, we're running up on about the hour mark, and I know both of us are very out of it. So I think we could probably call it there, unless you got any final remarks or whatnot.
I don't think so. I think that's pretty much covered it. I mean, again, I still think there's just a little bit.
Hey, you cut out again.
I'm sorry. What I meant to say is I still think there's still a little bit too much. That's too much damage is going on, and it is what it is. There's only so much you can do about it. But you know what?
Yeah, I'm gonna enjoy the fighter-esque.
Well, absolutely, without a doubt, dude.
The explosion of chaos and death we have right now, and then whatever happens. I as long as I can play the build I enjoy, I whatever, bring it, fight me. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up. This was going to be a shorter episode just because it's weekday and Ark and I are both tired and making up for a previous episode. For those who are wondering what the background image means or why I put it there, everyone wants to watch the world burn right now. So,
world is burning very, very quickly.
Especially in Arken's case. He's throwing out that burning.
Dude, oh my god. Why is it so strong?
Oh man. But yeah, that's gonna be it for us. You think we'll be on at our normal time this weekend?
Um, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt.
All right. Yeah, we could probably have a bit more in-depth stuff. We'll be able to see more of the PvP scene and the World scene and see how
When
things.
things have settled, for
Yeah,
sure, yeah.
things have settled at least a bit more, if not completely. So that'll be that. Thanks everyone for hanging. This has been Shin-Arken Podcast episode 17, a bit short of a cast, going over the gigantic chaos deathstorm that is PvP right now. And with that, this has been Shin, and we got Arken.
Hey, man, thank you guys for coming by. It was a pleasure,
Yep.
as always.
Happy to have everyone here. All right. Thanks for hanging, guys. See you later.
Take care.